Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. Thursday, December the 20th, the year 2018. Let's talk trading. It is complicated. Last week, I spent some time with a person who sees things as complicated, complex, and I see things as simple. And the discussions were after a while, I would just chuckle because no matter what I said, their response was, well, it's complicated. It's more complicated. You just can't do that. If you change this piece, then all these other pieces, get changed and it's just complicated. And as I said, I would just chuckle because in their world, they were taught to see all the interrelationships and how if you change something here, how it has a ripple effect. And that's valid, but I still chuckle because where my training was more systems approach, where you look at things as systems, you break them down in their components, and that's how you fix things, where you fix this part, then you fix that part, and it's like debugging a program. You fix this piece, then you test it, then you fix that piece, then you test it. And, over a few iterations, you fix things. But you don't say it's complicated. Now, what's that got to do with trading? To me, it has everything to do with trading because there are those gurus out there that will tell you things like, well, you need to learn price action. Yet, they've never defined price action. Other than myself, I've yet to seen anybody give a clear, concise definition of price action. What they say is, they say we need to learn price action, blah, 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 because they can't explain it to you. And as Deming puts it, if you can't explain something as a process, then you don't know what you're doing. I think I may have even shown that meme or that little poster, but it's so true. So as you trade, you can view it as complex. Well, there's these market forces and supply and demand and support and resistance, and the news and the markets, and this and that and the other. Yeah, you can throw all those factors in there and see it as this very complex entity. That's up to you. And the thing is, it would be valid for you. Or you can see trading as something very simple. Well, and pretty much binary. Prices either going up or down. It's either moving away from a point or towards a point, depending on the point. You can either buy or sell. So you can break it down and make it very simple. I chose simple, but others choose complex. And what's really funny is how people believe in their concepts. I read something else and it's like, that's one way of looking at it. It's like if you believe in God, you have faith in your God, then God exists for you. But if you don't believe in God, then God doesn't exist, but for you. So, in that sense, you can create your own reality. But as one of my favorite authors, Robert Ringer, would say, there's only one reality. You have a perspective on it. And so, if you choose that complex, complicated perspective, that's all well and good. But my question is to you is a kind of Dr. Phil question. Well, how's that working for you? I mean, my simple mantra, philosophy, biggest life lesson maybe is what works. And I think I've probably mentioned this in a video probably years ago. But what works? What works for you? Is it still working? These are the questions you have to answer for yourself. I can't answer them for you. I know what works for me. I know when things aren't working, and I know when I need to adjust things, change things, throw things out, add things. And I try to keep it simple. I watched that documentary that the minimalists put out. And just a side note, I got kicked off of their Facebook group because I spoke against the dogma, which is something else, you can relate to trading, and these social media, these trading forums. And I already mentioned God and faith and belief. You see, what I realized last night was these social media groups and these like trading forums and the threads on the forum, if you think of them as a religion, it becomes very clear, at least to me, it became very clear. The whole structure of the social, cultural environment. Everything is a church. So if you go to a certain church, like if you go to the Catholic Church, you don't go in there and roll out your, Middle Eastern prayer blankets and face towards Allah. That's not the way it works. And if you go over to the Middle East, you don't go out there with your rosary beads or whatever and do your Hail Marys because it doesn't work. You're in the wrong. No, you have to follow the church. So, like in a trading forum, if you go in there and somebody's got a bunch of squiggly lines, you don't talk about horizontal lines because that's not the church. And if you do talk about horizontal lines, then is what I used to call them, the jackals come out and they start attacking you, trying to rip your flesh off your bones. And usually you get banned from that forum. This is the voice of experience. And what that has to do with trading is what you do is if you're going to find a group of people, you have to be like-minded. And then there's harmony. Because all this thing about diversity is a divide and conquer. Now, I know it's like, well, how's that apply to trading? It's real simple. Because if you've got one group trading one way and you got the other group trading another way, when you get out there in the marketplace, somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. That's the nature of trading. So I rambled on for over 8 minutes. So let's pull up some charts. And of course, the first chart, in quotes, is the money and risk management screen. Repetition is the mother of skill. So by this time, you should be very skilled on money and risk management, unless you're just tuning in. Okay, what do we have here? We've got the monthly euro yen back. Actually, it's broken out of the lower wick zone. Right now, it's 5 pips below that lower wick zone, 4 pips. That's huge. Remember, this is an inside bar. There could be more to the downside. As we speak, there's 6 pips. And on the weekly, you can see here 54 weeks out of that lower wick zone. And we still have this gap to fill. It's Thursday. I don't think it's going to fill because right now on the weekly, it's 307 pips above the weekly open. On the daily, we broke out of the lower wick zone. See, we touched the upper wick zone, but we broke out of the lower. That's That's a coast to coast right there. Remember, this is an outside bar right here. So it did a coast to coast. And you can see here, just came in at 100 pips. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pairs. Or is it 12 pairs? 11 pairs over 100 with the dollar yen clocking in at 113. Euro yen just clocking in at 100. And the new beast, 223. Okay, we got 9 pips off the bottom. So you see right now, green rat time. Probably, okay, not quite holo time, but we'll get to that in a minute. Weekly open, you can see here it crossed, failed to hold, came all the way down here, came back across the weekly open, once again, failed to hold. You see there's an inside bar. You see a break to the upside, not a new high, came back into this wick zone, broke out of the wick zone, the upper wick zone, came through, the candle opened, so there was a holo trade right down here to the bottom, a breakout. So once again, right here, you should have been taking profit on this buy zone trade. So you can see here, you can look at this one chart and you can see how all those different zones applied to this chart. And we had the pivot point slightly above the daily open. So it really wasn't much of a bias because we had the daily open below the weekly open. So that's a south side or bear or down bias, a short bias. But we had a long bias because the pivot was just slightly above the open but below the weekly open. So you can see here in this case, there was not a very strong bias to the upside. You took a short zone trade here. Should have scratched at worst. Took a short zone trade here. Profit should have been taken about this level. Buy zone trade I already showed. Here's another short trade right there. You probably should have scratched out because actually you should have taken a small handful of pips because it would have been green right here and you're short. Just go ahead and you could have scratched that trade with a possible re-entry. Green rats, get ready. We've already seen the pivot. Pivot was taken out. We still have 2 missed pivots. I'm going to ramp it up here. Oh, look at this. 3 balls. Candle color at the line after the ball. Look for a green sometime in the near future here. Once again, candle color at the line, proving to be profitable. Wick zone, in and out, in and out, in and out. Holo zone, Larry live trade, long trigger, 51. You can see the inventory retracement bar, short trigger here, long trigger isn't until 127.70s. You can see my favorite trading screen, one of them. There's the lines, candle color at the line. Right now, you can see the down movement of price. Einstein, there was a short, there was a long trigger. Now we're going short again. So I'm going to wrap it up. That's it. Remember, trading is as complicated as you make it or as simple as you make it. That's your perspective. That will be your trading view. But keep in mind, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks.